They traveled south on a borrowed snowmobile, the machine screaming against the endless white. Ethan drove. Mara leaned against him, steady now, alert. The hunters weren't the end. They never were. At the pass, the remaining men found them. Gunfire cracked through the frozen air. The snowmobile flipped. Pain exploded. The world narrowed to breath and blood and motion. Ethan fought like a man with nothing left to lose. Mara made her choice in the chaos, dragging herself toward the cliff's edge, drawing fire, shouting until the last pursuer followed her too close. The fall took him. Silence returned. They didn't speak as they limped into the lowlands days later. Words felt too small. Spring waited there. Mud. Green. Life stubbornly pushing through ice. Ethan left the service soon after. Mara testified again. The network fell. Justice didn't fix everything, but it stitched something closed. They didn't promise forever. They promised now. Some nights, the wind still howls. Some wounds still ache. But when it does, Ethan remembers the storm that tried to take her, and failed. Because sometimes survival isn't about strength. It's about choosing not to let go. The cabin emerged like a hallucination. Ethan nearly walked past it, half buried, roof sagging under decades of snow. Smoke didn't rise from its chimney. No light warmed its windows. But it was solid. Shelter. He kicked the door in with his shoulder. Inside, the cold was less violent but no kinder. He laid the woman down near the hearth, hands already working, blankets, dry rations, fire starter from his pack. Sparks bloomed. Flames followed. Heat crept back into the room inch by inch. She watched him the entire time. Her eyes were sharp now, dark and assessing. Survival had burned fear out of them. When he knelt to check her leg, she flinched. "I can manage," she said. Ethan paused, met her gaze. "I know, let me help anyway." Silence stretched between them, heavy but not hostile. Finally, she nodded once. Her name was Mara Kincaid. She didn't explain how she ended up alone in the mountains with one leg and a shattered sled. Ethan didn't ask. He'd learned long ago that people shared when ready, and silence often held more truth than words. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, time slowed. Ethan cleaned the wound where the prosthetic had torn free. Old scar tissue told a story of violence long past. War, accident, or something worse, it didn't matter. What mattered was that she'd survived it once. And was fighting to survive again. Night fell without ceremony. The wind battered the cabin like a living thing. At some point, Mara slept. Ethan didn't. He fed the fire, checked the door, listened. That's when he heard it. Voices. Men. Faint. Distant. But real. Ethan stiffened, hand drifting to the knife at his belt. Searchers. Hunters. Or worse. Mara stirred, eyes snapping open. She'd heard 'em too. "They're not here for you," she said quietly. Ethan didn't answer. "They're here for me." Her voice carried the weight of old fear, old sins. At dawn, the storm thinned to a gray veil. Through the frost-coated window, Ethan saw figures moving against the white, 3 men, armed, deliberate. Bounty hunters. Mara's jaw tightened. "I testified," she said. "Years ago. Against a militia contractor running weapons through the interior. Lost my leg when they burned my truck off the road." He didn't forget. Ethan exhaled slowly. Men versus men. Men versus nature. Men versus themselves. He checked his ammo, counted breaths. When the door shattered inward, the fight was fast and brutal. No speeches, no mercy, just movement. Ethan crashing into the first man, bone against bone, the crack sharp as gunfire. A shot went wide, splintering wood. Mara dragged herself across the floor, grabbed the fallen pistol with steady hands. She didn't hesitate. The silence afterward was absolute. Blood steamed on the snow outside. Ethan looked at Mara, not with surprise, but respect. She met his gaze. "Still want to leave me behind?" she asked. He shook his head. "Ride with me," he said. The wind came first, low, constant, and merciless, like a warning whispered too late. Then the snow followed, thick as ash, swallowing the world in white silence. Lieutenant Ethan Cole stood at the edge of the ridge, his breath crystallizing inside his scarf, eyes scanning the frozen expanse below. Alaska had a way of making even trained men feel small. The mountains didn't roar. They watched, patient, ancient, unmoved by medals or ghosts. Ethan carried plenty of those. Below him stretched a valley erased by the storm. Trees bowed like penitents. Somewhere beneath that endless white lay the remains of a forgotten supply road, abandoned since the war drills ended and the contractors fled south. Ethan wasn't on any official mission. No command, no extraction window, just a man running from noise he couldn't shut off. The Navy called it operational fatigue. The doctors used gentler words. Ethan knew the truth, he was hollowed out by decisions made in seconds that lasted forever. Faces he couldn't name anymore. Orders that echoed long after the gunfire stopped. He'd come north to disappear where no one asked questions. The blizzard worsened without ceremony. Visibility collapsed to a few feet. The wind clawed through his parka like it wanted something back. Ethan turned, calculating retreat angles, when something broke the perfect geometry of the snowfield. A shape, dark, still. At first, he thought it was debris, maybe a fallen pack or the rib of a dead tree. Then the wind shifted, and he saw fabric. Torn, frozen stiff. Ethan moved without thinking. Each step was a war against ice. Snow climbed his boots, dragging him down. He reached the shape and knelt, fingers burning as he brushed snow away. A woman. Her face was pale blue, lashes rimmed with frost. One glove was gone. Blood stained the snow near her hip, already freezing into black crystals. Her breath came shallow, uneven. And then Ethan saw it. Her right leg ended above the knee, wrapped in torn cloth, the prosthetic half buried several feet away like something ripped loose by the storm. She wasn't dead. Not yet. Ethan checked her pulse, weak but there. Hypothermia was already tightening its grip. He scanned the white void around them. No shelter, no help, just the storm pressing closer. He slid his arms beneath her shoulders, careful, precise. Military training took over, pushing the panic aside. As he lifted her, her eyes fluttered open, sharp, startlingly aware. She looked at him like a cornered animal. Easy, he said softly, though the wind nearly stole the word. You're safe. Her lips trembled. Snow clung to her hair, dark curls frozen into ropes. She tried to pull away but had no strength. Don't, she whispered. Leave. Ethan shook his head once. Not happening.
He tightened his grip, anchoring her against his chest, feeling how light she was. Too light. Starvation. Cold. Time. The blizzard surged again, erasing their tracks almost instantly. Behind them, the mountain watched and waited.